Close your eyes for just one moment and tell me if you can still smell it. The sharp, sweet tang of Maxwell House coffee bubbling in a percolator on a Tuesday morning. The low hiss of a cast iron skillet with bacon fat popping in the quiet of a house not yet fully awake. Avocado green as far as the eye could see. A Harvest Gold refrigerator humming like it owned the place. Formica countertops that had seen 10,000 dinners and would survive 10,000 more. Linoleum floors that told the whole story of a family if you looked closely enough. The scuff marks near the back door where the kids came in from the yard. The worn patch in front of the stove where mom stood, day after day, year after year, quietly holding everything together. If you grew up in America in the 1970s, that kitchen wasn't just a room in the house. It was the beating heart of everything you ever called home. Welcome back to American Retold, the channel where we dust off the decades and remind you just how extraordinary ordinary life once was. I'm so glad you're here today, because this one is personal. We're going back to a very specific place in a very specific time. We're going back to the American kitchen of the 1970s. Not the glossy marble countertop kitchens you see in design magazines today. We're talking about the real ones. The ones with the junk drawer that hadn't been properly cleaned since 1967. The ones with the ceramic rooster collection on the windowsill above the sink.
The ones where dinner was on the table at 6 o'clock sharp. No exceptions, no negotiations. Over the next little while, we are going to walk through every corner of that beautiful, chaotic, wonderfully dated room. The appliances, the cookbooks, the smells, the sounds, the brands, the routines, and the remarkable woman who ran it all.
If you haven't already subscribed to American Retold, now is a great time to do that. We put out new videos every week, and trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next. Now then, let's step back through that kitchen doorway together, because those days deserve to be remembered properly. To truly understand the 1970s American kitchen, you have to first understand America itself in that decade. And America in the 1970s was a lot. Richard Nixon resigned from the presidency in August of 1974, becoming the only president in United States history to do so. The Vietnam War finally ground to its painful, complicated end in 1975. Gas prices quadrupled almost overnight during the 1973 oil embargo, and Americans sat in lines stretching around city blocks just to fill their tanks. Inflation was running at rates that would make your head spin. By 1979, it had climbed to nearly 13%, meaning the dollar your mother put in her purse on Monday was worth noticeably less by Friday. A pound of ground beef that cost around 60 cents in 1970 had crept up to over $1 by the middle of the decade. A gallon of milk hovered around 65 cents, but families felt every price increase keenly because the average American household income was only around $10,000 a year. And yet somehow, American families ate well. Remarkably well. Because the woman running that kitchen was resourceful in ways we have largely forgotten how to be. She stretched a chicken across 3 meals without blinking. She canned vegetables in summer to see the family through winter. She clipped coupons from the Sunday paper with the precision of a surgeon. Popular culture was shifting beneath everyone's feet. The Beatles had already broken up. Disco was climbing out of the underground clubs and into the mainstream. All in the Family was on television, making Americans argue at dinner tables about things they had never spoken aloud before. Women were entering the workforce in record numbers following the women's liberation movement, and yet the expectation remained, in millions of homes across the country, that mom still had dinner on the table by 6. She was managing more than any generation of women before her, often with less appreciation than she deserved. And she did it all from that kitchen. The color scheme that defined a generation. If someone blindfolded you and dropped you into a 1970s American kitchen, you would know exactly where you were the moment they removed that blindfold. Not because of any smell or sound, because of the color. Avocado-green, harvest gold, burnt sienna, copper tone. These were not merely color choices. These were a full-throated declaration that America had moved on from the white and chrome sterility of the 1950s and was ready to embrace something earthier, warmer, more organic. General Electric, Westinghouse, and Sears all offered their major appliances in these shades, and American families bought them with genuine enthusiasm. The refrigerator was harvest gold. The stove was avocado green. The countertop was formica in some approximation of a wood grain pattern. The wallpaper, if there was any, probably featured repeating patterns of mushrooms, owls, or roosters. Because the 1970s had a complicated and unexplained obsession with all three-dot curtains were typically a heavy polyester and a complementary earth tone, often with fringe along the bottom edge. The floor was almost certainly linoleum, easy to mop, easy to replace, and absolutely indestructible in the hands of a family with children. Sears sold a kitchen set in 1973 that included the refrigerator, stove, and dishwasher, all in the same avocado green for just under $800. That was a bargain that felt substantial even on a modest income. The whole design philosophy of the era was warmth and togetherness. The colors were supposed to make the kitchen feel alive, inviting, human. And honestly, they did. Walk into one of those kitchens today and it hits you somewhere deep. Not just nostalgia. Something closer to grief for a simpler kind of beauty that we somehow let slip away. The appliances she swore by, the 1970s American kitchen, hummed with machinery that felt genuinely miraculous to the generation using it. Cast your mind back to the Sunbeam Mixmaster standing on the counter like a proud little soldier. Or the Oster blender, that loud, rattling beast that Mom fired up every Sunday to make frozen lemonade or the occasional grasshopper pie. The percolator was the true heart of the morning kitchen. Brands like Mr. Coffee had just arrived on the scene in 1972. And within a few years had completely transformed how Americans made their morning cup. Before Mr. Coffee, the percolator ruled the counter, and the sound of it in the morning was one of the most deeply comforting sounds in the world. The crock pot changed everything when it arrived in 1971. Rival manufacturing had the extraordinary foresight to market it directly to working women who needed a hot dinner waiting for them at the end of a long day. Sales went from fewer than 50,000 units in 1971 to over 4 million by 1975. That is not a trend. That is a revolution. And it happened one pot roast at a time. The microwave oven was beginning its slow, expensive march into American homes by the mid-1970s, but in 1975, a countertop microwave from Amana could cost upwards of $500, which was well out of reach for most families. But by the end of the decade, prices had dropped enough that the microwave began appearing in middle-class kitchens, and it felt like pure science fiction. You heated up your leftover soup in 45 seconds and you genuinely felt like you were living in the future. Because you were. The cookbooks that lived on the counter there is a very good chance your mother owned a copy of the Better Homes and Gardens new cookbook in a red and white checkered binder. And if she did, the pages were almost certainly stained with evidence of 100 actual meals. That book had been in print since 1930. And by the 1970s, it had sold more copies than almost any other book in American history, second only to the Bible in many states. The joy of cooking was another staple of the 1970s kitchen, thick as a phone book and just as referenced. Julia Child had done something remarkable through her television show The French Chef, which ran on PBS from 1963 through the early 1970s. She convinced ordinary American housewives that French cooking was not intimidating but joyful. And her influence on home cooking in America cannot possibly be overstated. Fondue was having its absolute moment in the 1970s kitchen. If your family owned a fondue set, it came out for company at least once a month, and everyone dipped bread and vegetables into bubbling cheese and pretended to be cosmopolitan. The Jell-O mold was not just a dish in the 1970s, it was an art form with its own subculture. Women submitted Jell-O mold recipes to church cookbooks, county fairs, and community fundraisers with complete sincerity and considerable competitive pride. A Jell-O mold with cream cheese and fruit cocktails suspended within it was considered an entirely appropriate centerpiece for a dinner party. And nobody questioned this. Nobody. Because the era had its own logic and its own beauty, and if we laugh at it now, we also have to admit that at least people were showing up at dinner parties with something they made with their own hands. The smells you will never forget. You know exactly what I mean when I say that certain smells can carry you across 50 years in the space of a single breath. The 1970s American kitchen had a smell that was entirely its own. There was always the faint ghost of yesterday's dinner lingering warmly somewhere near the stove. There was the specific smell of a kitchen drawer full of rubber bands, old menus and batteries of unknown charge. There was the unmistakable scent of a canister of Folgers coffee sitting open on the counter. Ajax powder on the sink. The sweet chemical cloud of a freshly opened can of Crisco. Pine Sol on a Friday afternoon when Mom did her deep clean. If there was a slow cooker going, the whole house smelled of it by noon. Pot roast with onion soup mix. Chicken and vegetables that had been braising low and slow since morning. Is almost physically painful how vivid that smell becomes when you close your eyes and try to find it. There was also the very specific and entirely 1970s smell of a hamburger helper box being opened. Introduced by General Mills in 1971 and sold for around 50 cents a box, Hamburger Helper was marketed as a way to stretch 1 pound of ground beef into a family meal. And it worked. It absolutely worked. Millions of American families ate it without shame and with genuine appreciation. Because it was good. And because it was dinner. And dinner on the table was something to be grateful for, every single night. The pantry and the art of making do. A 1970s American pantry was a masterclass in preparedness that would put most of us today to absolute shame. Open those wooden cupboard doors, and you would find stacks of Campbell's soup in every variety known to man. Cream of mushroom soup was the single most versatile ingredient in the American kitchen of this era. It went into green bean casserole, into tuna noodle bake, into chicken and rice, into 100 other dishes that required something creamy and savory and absolutely reliable. There were boxes of minute rice, cans of Del Monte fruit cocktail, bags of dried beans and lentils. A tin of Spam that had been there for some time and would remain there for some time more. Just in case. Bird's eye frozen vegetables in the freezer. Swanson TV dinners for the nights when everyone was too tired. Boxes of Jell-O in 6 flavors. Bags of Domino sugar. A tin of Hershey's cocoa for baking. Mom knew every single item in that pantry by memory. She knew what was running low, what needed replacing, and what could be stretched another week if she was creative about it. She operated that pantry like a supply chain manager with decades of experience. Which, when you think about it, is exactly what she was. The American housewife of the 1970s was simultaneously the procurement officer, head chef, nutritionist, and chief financial officer of her home's food operation. She did it without a spreadsheet. She did it without an app. She did it from memory, from habit, and from a bone-deep understanding of what her family needed. The ritual of the family dinner. There are rituals that hold civilizations together. And in the American home of the 1970s, none was more sacred than the family dinner. 6 o'clock. Every night. No arguments. Dad came through the door, hung up his coat, and within 30 minutes the whole family was seated at a kitchen table that might have seated 4 but often squeezed in 6. The telephone on the wall might ring during dinner, and Mom would answer it briefly and say, "We're eating, I'll call you back," and hang up. No caller ID. No voicemail. No checking of phones at the table. Because the phone was attached to the wall by a curly cord and the only person who could use it was the person standing next to it. The meals themselves were drawn from a very specific rotation that every American family of the era would recognize. Monday was meatloaf. Tuesday might be pork chops. Wednesday could be tuna noodle casserole. Thursday was soup and sandwiches if the budget was tight. Friday, in Catholic households across the country, was fish. The whole country ate the same things on the same nights. Give or take. It was a kind of national synchronicity that we have never replicated since. The table was set properly every night. Not formally, but properly. Plates, forks on the left, knives and spoons on the right. A paper napkin folded once. That table was where homework got discussed and arguments got started and arguments got resolved. Where kids learned how to sit still and how to listen. Where families rebuilt themselves after hard days. The kitchen table of the 1970s was not just furniture. It was the architecture of family life itself. The woman who made it all happen. We need to talk about her. We have talked around her for this entire video, but it is time to talk about her directly. The woman who ran that kitchen. In 1970, roughly 40% of American women were in the paid workforce. By 1980, that number had climbed to over 50%. But in millions of households across this country throughout that decade, there was still a woman who stayed home. Who managed the house, the children, the budget, and the meals entirely. And in the households where she also worked outside the home, she typically came home and ran the kitchen too. She woke before the rest of the family. She made the lunches and packed the paper bags. She started the coffee and got the bacon going before anyone else had opened their eyes. She tracked the family budget with coupons clipped from the Sunday circular, organized in a little accordion folder she kept in the kitchen drawer. She knew that Kroger had ground beef on sale this week, and that was the week to buy and freeze a little extra. She knew that her kids needed more iron in their diet, or that her husband shouldn't have too much salt. She did all of this without a nutrition app, without a meal planner, without any of the tools we consider essential today. She did it from love. Pure, unglamorous, bone-tired love that got up every single morning and got dinner on the table again. If you had a mother like this, you know exactly what I mean. And if she is still with you today, I hope you tell her. Because that kitchen, that beautiful, avocado green, Formica countertop percolator on the counter kitchen was her life's work, and it deserves to be remembered as the extraordinary thing it was. Before we go any further, let's take a moment for a few things you might not know about the 1970s American kitchen. Did you know that the avocado green color trend actually began in the early 1960s and was introduced by the appliance industry to encourage Americans to upgrade their white appliances to a new color? It worked so well that it became the defining aesthetic of an entire generation's home life. Did you know that the crock pot was originally invented in the 1940s by Irving Naxon as a device for making a traditional Jewish dish called cholent, and was only later purchased by rival manufacturing and rebranded as the slow cooker we know and love today? Irving Naxon named his original device the Naxon Beanery All-Purpose Cooker, which, it must be said, is a considerably less appealing name. And did you know that Hamburger Helper was launched in 1971 specifically in response to a beef shortage and a beef price spike that made it difficult for American families to afford a full meat-based dinner? General Mills created it as a solution to a national affordability crisis, and Americans embraced it so enthusiastically that the brand has never looked back. Sometimes the most iconic things in American life were born not from abundance but from necessity. That is worth sitting with for a moment. In the 1970s, the average American family spent about 17% of their income on food. Today, that number has dropped to around 11%, which sounds like good news until you look at what has changed. In the 1970s, that 17% bought food that was almost entirely cooked at home, from scratch, by a person who knew what every ingredient was. Today, a significant portion of that 11% goes to restaurants, takeout, and ultra-processed food that comes in packaging you need a degree to understand. In the 1970s, a family dinner happened every night at the same table with the same people. Today, nearly 60% of American households report eating together fewer than 5 nights a week. In the 1970s, children knew where food came from because they saw it prepared from raw ingredients every single day. Today, a meaningful percentage of children in surveys have identified bacon as coming from pigs, but could not explain how it got from the animal to the plate. The 1970s kitchen was not perfect. The food wasn't always balanced. The workload was not always fairly distributed, but it created something that is genuinely harder to find today. It created a place in the house where time slowed down, where people looked at each other, where the act of feeding your family was treated as something sacred. We traded that kitchen for convenience. And some days, you have to wonder whether it was a fair trade. Now I want to hear from you, because that is the best part of this whole channel. Every one of you watching this has a memory attached to a kitchen from your past. Maybe it's the smell of your grandmother's stovetop on Thanksgiving morning. Maybe it's the sound of that percolator gurgling away while the news played on the little transistor radio sitting on the counter. Maybe it's the specific shade of harvest gold on your family's refrigerator door, and the feel of that heavy handle when you pulled it open as a kid. Whatever your memory is, I want you to write it in the comments below this video. But here is my specific question for you today. What was the one meal that your mom made in the 1970s that you have never been able to fully recreate yourself, no matter how hard you have tried? That one dish that tasted exactly right back then and has never quite tasted right since? Tell me down in the comments, because those recipes deserve to be remembered, every last one of them. We have covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? We have stood at that Formica countertop. We have smelled that Folgers coffee. We have opened that Harvest Gold refrigerator and found something wonderful waiting inside. We have sat at that kitchen table and listened to the sounds of a family at the end of its day. The 1970s American kitchen was not a showpiece. It was not designed to impress. It was not the kind of kitchen you see on Pinterest or in a home renovation show. It was a working room. A room that earned its wear and its scuff marks and its coffee rings on the counter. It was a room run by a woman who did not have the luxury of giving up or calling in a substitute. She showed up in that kitchen every single morning. And she will show up in your memory every single time you smell something cooking from your childhood. That is what endures. Not the avocado green. Not the Jell-O molds. Not even the crock pot. What endures is the love that was poured into that room, meal after meal, year after year, quietly and without applause. If this video brought something back for you today, please give it a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel more than you might realize. And if you are not yet part of the American Retold family, subscribe right now. Because next week we are going back to the American living room of the 1960s. And that story is one you absolutely will not want to miss. Until then, take care of yourselves. And the next time you sit down to a home-cooked meal, take one extra second to be grateful for the hands that made it. Those were the days. YF friends. Those were truly the days.